At FIT TV, we have chosen to talk about but one of the three major scandals that have hit the Obama administration this month, May of 2013. Every poll has it that the IRS is hated before these scandals. Now this obtrusive government agency under the microscope has gone too far and has met its match, the American spirit. Our patience has run out. Even Democrats feel the IRS has overstepped its bounds. Today we intend to open the conversation as to what it could be and the fallout of the current IRS scandal. I have with me two conversing experts, Rafael Benincasa from www.hardassetnews.com, and to his left, Pete Nichols from www.savehuntington.com. Welcome, guys. All right, let's beat up the IRS. You ready?
It's an easy whipping boy.
Yeah. What's going on? I mean, everyone had already had this fear of the IRS. Everyone already has this animosity, this bad feeling about what can happen.
Right.
Not wanting to pay more taxes, doing everything we can to make more money. This is certainly a difficult economy. All these things make a big deal of difference to everyone. Now it appears that there's a scandal. What are we supposed to think? What are we supposed to do now? I mean, I don't have any. I have less faith than I had before.
Abolish the IRS. I mean, what else can I say?
No, what'd you want? Which is that a good idea? I'm serious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with the whole idea.
At one time, I felt that way.
I believe it's unconstitutional. You know, prior to the 16th Amendment, 1913, we didn't have an income tax. So America was highly prosperous before IRS. I don't see why we couldn't be highly prosperous after IRS. You know, I put it this way: IRS is like a horrible 100-year nightmare in America's history. We should just delete them and get rid of it. Move forward.
There are plenty of people who will agree with you about getting rid of it.
Well, then the only thing I want to add is how would you collect the money in order? First of all, who would collect the money in order to pay for all the programs that we're obligated to pay for?
Well, the state's too huge, I think, and it needs to be radically cut in order to get rid of IRS.
I think the real issue now is that, you know, unfortunately, you know, they're tying Obama into the IRS, and really it's kind of a distraction because really Obama doesn't have anything to do with the IRS. His reputation is being hurt by it because he's obviously the head of the government, the executive branch, and you know, but I think what ends up happening is he was labeled as, or he claimed to be, the most transparent administration ever. Right. And now you have Benghazi, you got the IRS, they're going after people in AP, Fox News. Right. So now all of a sudden it's not transparent
Everybody's
anymore.
Fair game.
Right. He seems to be going after opponents, and you know, news stories had even over a year ago or 2 years ago about Vandersloot, who was a big donor to Mitt Romney. As soon as he wrote his last check, he got audited by the IRS. So, I mean, that was Bill O'Reilly. He got audited when he was criticizing Clinton.
Well, what about this targeting? I mean, that's not America, is it? I mean,
well, you have to find out exactly, you know, like they said about Nixon. You know, the big question was, what did he know and when did he know it? Did Obama know that this was going on?
Isn't it obvious that he had to know? The chief of staff, his chief of staff knows.
Right.
He has to relate everything to the president.
The chief counsel told the chief of staff last year.
The big word on that is that's a lie now, that Obama's told a lie because the chief of staff let him know.
Right, and how could the chief of staff know something that big was going and not say anything to Obama?
That's what I'm saying. Right.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So eventually they're going to have an independent counsel. They're going to investigate. They're going to find out, you know, what's going on and who's doing what. But really, you know, we were talking about this before. It's the tax code. Right. I think is the bigger issue. We were talking about Apple, that our tax code is so screwed up that Apple didn't do anything wrong, in my opinion. They followed or they took advantage of some archaic laws to park their money overseas so they wouldn't have to pay taxes.
Right. Which a lot of companies do.
Right. So maybe now people will start to say, look, we got an even more serious problem, that we need to restructure our tax. So they park the money over here.
Right.
So I think that's what needs to happen.
What was bad for me is the targeting. They targeted conservative groups.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, it's at the end of the day, Obama's going to have to answer. You know, I don't think he's ever said the buck stops here in any of these scandals. No. I mean, you had Eric Holder saying it was somebody else's fault.
Right. No one gave any definitive answers. No one gave any definitive answers.
What's shocking to me is that Obama hasn't been impeached yet. I mean, you would think after just the Solyndra scandal alone, there would have been something.
And by the way, since then, there was about another $8 billion worth of other companies that failed in the green machine, we call it.
Yeah, it just gets washed.
I don't understand how the country's hurting, massive unemployment. We got rising numbers of people on unemployment. Food stamps is at an all-time high, and they're throwing away hundreds of billions of dollars on shell corporations. That alone should have him impeached. The fact that he's not impeached after that, and then you go on to the Fast and Furious scandal, running guns to Mexican drug cartels. Now, if Richard Nixon or Dwight D. Eisenhower would have been in a situation like that,
Or George Bush.
don't you think he would have been impeached instantaneously?
Well, you look back at the history with the IRS. This is not the first time the IRS has been used as a tool to get a political opponent. It's sort of par for the course.
I agree with that.
George W. Bush targeted a church that criticized him, targeted NAACP that was critical of his policies. Before that, you had Clinton used the IRS to investigate all these women that were making accusations against him. Obviously, you had Nixon going after just about everybody. Who, Humphrey, Kennedy, you name it.
Yeah, but it's not political, is it? What is it?
Of course it's political.
Yeah, I think the IRS is under the authority of the executive branch because it's an executive agency, so.
It's a giant collection agency.
But it's a collection agency for the Federal Reserve. That's
Am I
what it
missing
is.
an equation of taxation for me when you add take a lot of taxes out? You're talking about government prowess, purpose,
well,
and then who supports them? I mean, the unions are very much a big part of that, I think, and I think it's all tied in. To me, it looks like, why is it they went after conservatives? In other words,
well, Kennedy went after conservatives. He went after the John Birch Society. I mean, he went after a whole bunch of people.
That's the president. I meant the IRS.
Well, they do under the table what the president tells them to do. I mean, look at Hoover. I mean, Hoover investigated, and he's in the FBI. I mean, he investigated everybody. And, unfortunately, what that breeds is it comes back to bite you in the ass, because then Hoover started investigating the president and found all these little vices that,
improprieties.
Exactly. So now he can blackmail them. So now you can't fire me. So this is going to come back to haunt Obama, and it is, because now he's using it to target opponents, which other presidents, FDR did it with the New Deal. Huey Long he went after.
How come? I mean, I guess I don't follow history close enough to know that, but I thought this was major. Nobody else did.
This is par for the course,
really.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, the Republicans are, they're making hay with it right now because they can, and that's exactly what the Democrats would do, and they should.
Sure.
But, no citizen should have to worry about. But look at it in reality. I mean, what we know so far is all that's been done is the IRS has asked or audited these groups more than they would with, let's say, liberal groups.
But they have been doing that for 18 months, apparently. All 501c3 people who were trying to generate money to get their organizations run.
Right. So and the people who did that should be disciplined and thrown out. Now, the key is, the question is, what did Obama know and when did he know it? If he knew about this in 2012 and did nothing about it, like Raph said, impeach him right away.
Let's take both sides. I'm with you on that one. Let's say that he didn't know.
I find that impossible to believe.
I do.
Well, he can deny it all he wants, but
too.
just they have lawyers out there.
Right,
they can pin this on. If somebody's going to get into a corner and they're going to turn on him, and they're just going to rat him out and say,
this morning there was a hearing. Did you hear about that?
Yeah,
the woman, what's her name? Lois Lerner or something.
Lerner, yeah.
She pleaded the fifth.
Well, that was her mistake. She actually got up and read a statement and said that, I didn't know about this. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just doing my job. Then she took the fifth.
She's an idiot.
And they said, well, it's too late. You already opened your mouth under oath.
I didn't quite catch what that was all about.
Yeah.
I thought she intended to plead the fifth. Yesterday's news was that she was going to plead the fifth.
Yeah, you have to start out saying that. You can't do that, halfway through the questioning and say, you know what, screw you, I'm not answering.
What sense would it make to do it afterwards either?
Well,
I mean, you plead the fifth. You're not
whoever
going to
was
say anything
advising
anyway.
her, yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, she's going to talk.
She's going to have no choice but to talk.
Right, and they're going to find out, okay, who told you? And they're going to, they get a drug dealer. They go to give us your source, give us your source, and they keep going up the ladder. And sooner or later, somebody's going to be looking at jail time, and they're going to say, did Obama know?
And the one thing is for certain, whoever does jail time, it's not going to be Obama. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He's getting away scot-free.
How do you feel about all this power that they suddenly have? I mean,
well, they've always had this power. The executive branch is always
awarded,
very powerful.
No, the IRS I'm talking about.
The IRS is now going to be in charge of Obamacare.
That's what I'm saying, Obamacare, and now they're also enforcement.
Sure. They got to hire thousands of new agents.
People are now being picked out, and that's why the conservative thing got me, because people are actually being arrested for different things.
Well, you know what? That's another sign of totalitarianism, because when you have a police state, which we already have, then you can start using different branches of the government to target your political opponents, and that's clearly what's going on.
And who better than the IRS?
Oh, sure, it's the scariest thing. I mean, you got a nice business running, and the next thing you know, you're having your doors knocked, rammed down by IRS agents, and they want to see everything. I mean, come on, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know, it's nuts.
But the fact that any corporations even do business in America still is crazy. I saw an interview yesterday where they were asking some banking executive from, I think it was Morgan Stanley, and he said that they have IRS officers working in their offices all the time. They're under constant audit. So I mean, imagine operating a business like that, under
No.
constant audit. It's crazy.
Well, again, the immediate effect is what you see is, like you said, with the IRS, but what the long-term effect is and what it's creating is probably going to be the largest underground economy in the world. People are just going to start paying for everything in cash. They're going to start bartering.
Bartering, yeah.
They're not going to report anything.
Are we doing that now? I don't see a lot of people bartering now.
Well, the state has a solution for that too, because the state knows that will probably happen. So
that's why they're taxing the internet?
Well, no,
that's the proposal.
I think that's why they want to implement a national ID card and get money to be on some sort of verified chip or some sort of like card or on your smartphone. They want to get rid of cash. There's a huge war against cash.
Right.
There's a huge war against any kind of alternative currency like Bitcoin or gold or
yeah.
silver.
Right.
Any sort of alternative money that the state can't necessarily control, they'll immediately target and wipe it out. So any sort of movement towards an underground economy, they're going to stomp that out instantly with some sort of
they'll ramp up the penalties.
Radical kind of, I think everything's going towards a digital currency.
You once told me about
ID
the
chip.
73 since the hard asset of gold disappeared. We went away from the gold standard. That thing started to deteriorate. Oh, 71, I thought it was 73.
71, yeah, and then things have deteriorated slowly since then.
That's what I'm saying. It was a
well, an ounce of gold was $35 an ounce at that time. Now it's $1,400.
Well, I think interest rates are probably taking
That's
more of the responsibility to. When you have low interest rates, people aren't going to. First of all, you can't save money. You're going to have no interest on your money.
That's a joke.
And it actually destroys jobs by having
don't you
it.
think that's a huge scandal?
Absolutely.
I think the 0% interest by
destroys
the Federal
jobs.
Reserve is the number one.
Nobody can make any money.
But it's not a scandal. IRS, Obama targeting a few people with IRS is a scandal. Or the kid in Boston blowing up a little puff bomb is a huge scandal, and it causes 5 million people to go crazy. But 0% interest rates for 5-6 years, depriving American savers of income? That's not a scandal? That's a disgrace.
They see people having opportunity to get loans at low rates as more valuable than the other.
People can't repay the loans because there's no jobs. So
that's the next step to it. But what I'm just saying that
when the interest rates are that low at 0%, you're basically taking whatever capital or wealth that you have and shrinking it. It's just getting smaller and smaller,
lowering the value,
which is probably why they're sending all their money overseas to hide it, so it doesn't shrink. I mean, that's anytime you have a government intervention on the scale that we have right now. You're going to have problems with the IRS. You're going to have problems with the Treasury. You're going to have a government that is so out of control.
It's the institutionalization of conflicting interests. That's what you have in Washington, the institutionalization of all these conflicting interests, and it's just a quagmire. It's a disaster.
There's no way that we can go back. There's no way we can go back. Small government is a good idea in my eyes too, but how do we go back?
But that's not even the problem. But look who's running everything. Look what Bloomberg said. He said all these guys that he's dealt with over his last 12 years in office, he wouldn't hire any of them even to take out the trash. And these guys are running hundreds of millions of dollars. Look at your local school board.
Oh my God.
Some of these people I wouldn't let park my car.
Right.
And yet they're in charge of budgets that are $200 million.
And they just keep throwing a new administrator in every school district.
And the only people
at $150,000, $200,000 a year.
Because they vote
work
themselves
180 days a year.
benefits.
They vote themselves, like the Congress does too. They vote themselves benefits. The Congress voted itself an
in the last 10
exemption
to 15 years.
insider
They've done
trading.
it all the time. I know.
And
That's
to
another
Obamacare
thing.
now.
And to Obamacare. So the Congress, think about this. Just picture this in your mind if you can. I'm on Wall Street, so I kind of can envision this better than anybody else in this room, I think. But imagine a congressman who's sitting in on a hearing and hears that there's going to be a massive government contract given to a specific aerospace company, let's say.
Halliburton or something.
Whatever, Boeing or McDonnell Douglas, or whatever it may be. That person who's in on that congressman can then leave the office, go on his cell phone, log on to his options account, buy options in the stock,
right, I know.
Let the news become released in a week or two, and then sell his options, make millions of dollars, and never get, and he's exempt.
That's insider
now,
trading.
if I tried doing that, immediately investigated by FINRA and sent that to prison immediately.
Yeah.
I think Gillibrand would just push a law that I think was adopted. I got
New York State Senator Gillibrand?
Exactly. It says they can't do that anymore. They used to be able to do that.
But they didn't pass it. They're doing it.
Well, then that's probably
until they pass it. They're doing it.
Right.
They're doing it, and that in itself is a gross abuse of power and an abuse of special privilege.
Sure.
And any congressman who engaged in activities like that should immediately resign.
I'm just curious.
But they won't. They have no integrity.
They had so many raises in the last 20 or 30 years, especially the last 15
years. But until you have
term
term limits, and until people stand up,
there's incentive for them to stay there.
Exactly, and say enough is enough. But apathy is probably the biggest killer of the U.S. so far. People just don't go out and vote.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, how many people do you know that don't vote?
Because the system has
Too many.
has-
Way
Well, because
too
there's
many.
nobody to vote for.
But right, and they feel abused by the system. They feel like they've tried
Right.
to vote and they haven't gotten anywhere. So why keep doing it? It's like Einstein's definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, look for a different result. You constantly go to the polls, you constantly vote, you stay up on politics. It makes no difference. It's a one-party system controlled by banks.
And we
period.
told this for a long time ago. I mean, I consider myself well dressed in politics, and yet there's still people on there I don't know. There's still people I don't know how to vote.
Well, it's a giant revolving corporate door between Wall Street and Washington. Wall Street, Washington. You take like the new chairman, the new Treasury Secretary, Jack Lew, at Citibank. Big hedge fund manager, multimillionaire, becomes chairman of the Treasury. You know, it's the same thing with all these executives. Robert Rubin was Goldman Sachs CEO, and not Goldman Sachs, excuse me, Citigroup CEO. Then he becomes chairman of the Treasury. Hank Paulson, chairman of Goldman Sachs, becomes chairman of the U.S. Treasury. So it just shows you that there's this fascist model of business that goes on in America,
Well, I
where
believe-
it's the
right.
synthesis of big corporations, big banking power in Washington, and they just move and they work with each other. The aerospace industry, they go in and they go out. They go into the private sector, into the public sector,
Yeah,
and,
but I
and they
think that-
constantly abuse their special
Yeah.
privilege and their insider
But we allow them to do
trading and
that.
all that is disgusting and
Who's
grotesque.
we,
It's got to
Pete?
stop.
Yeah,
we, the
I'm
voters, are
board
so
with that.
apathetic that we allow them, like you pointed out. I mean, but what's done about
We
it?
can't jump on that.
I mean, you know, you have someone.
John Q.
We were
Public.
talking last time I was on about
Yeah.
write-in candidates.
Right.
I mean, to run for office now is almost impossible if you're not a political insider.
Right.
And the people, the type of person.
If you don't have money,
And
you
Frederick
can't
Hayek
compete.
wrote about this, why the worst get on top. The type of person that runs for office is not the kind of person
Sure.
you want making quality of life decisions
He's
or
the
in
least
charge of your
relative
property
to-
taxes.
He's the least in touch with the world and more likely to try to draw from somebody
Well,
else's.
he's willing
Exactly.
to grovel
stuff,
for
you know?
money. He's willing to
Exactly.
grovel.
So these are
and
the
beg.
kind of people who are in government who we allow to be there because people just don't care.
All right, let's go back to the IRS for just a moment. What do you think the future will have for, I guess, our politicians right now concerning protecting themselves from more punishment, from
Well,
this being
Republicans worrying
exposed?
about being targeted now by Obama. I mean,
Well,
who knows?
I mean, that's.
I think it's still
How,
going to
how
happen.
would that
It'll just-
continue with this door being opened? I would say now it'd have to pretty much stop.
Yeah, but where do you draw the line, though? Where do you draw the line between a legitimate audit where somebody maybe does have a phony 501c4 for whatever reason? Now all of a sudden they're going to say, "Listen, now we
I
can't
don't trust.
investigate
I don't.
anybody."
That's right.
Right.
I'm not
Good
trusting
point.
them. I'll tell you right now.
no.
I can't. I can no longer trust. I didn't trust them before. Come to think of it, but
Well, no, I think
I'm
what's
not
gonna
trusting
happen-
them anymore.
Somebody's going to be the fall guy, whether it's Obama or somebody.
won't be-
Somebody's
won't
going to
be.
go down for this.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned all the other scandals that he was involved in. Obama that never. But sometimes with the cops, they let these drug dealers make these little deals and they get away with it. And they say, "How come you don't do it?" Because they're building a case. Maybe they're waiting for the big one. And I don't know if anything's going to get bigger than this.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think anything's going to get
If
bigger.
he knew
this
about
is going to be
this,
bigger than we
if
think
he
we
knew
think
about
it.
this in 2012 and did nothing about it, he's
Pete's
gone.
time.
I think Obama murdering American citizens is a lot more important than targeting
Wait a
people.
minute,
by the
Benghazi
Well,
thing you're talking
No,
about?
I'm talking about Anwar al-Maliki, who's an American citizen.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
targeted by Obama. He was killed by a drone, and they killed his son. Now, those are two American citizens that were denied due process. They were denied all their Fourth,
Do you
Fifth
think they
Amendment, and they were
deserve?
wiped out.
Do you think they deserve any due process? I mean, not
Absolutely.
everybody. I think
they're an
deserves
American.
due process.
If you're an American, you deserve due process.
War is different.
I don't believe that America is the battlefield. I don't believe it.
Well, it shouldn't be, but war is different.
America's the homeland.
Like that
America
guy,
should be
the guy in
peace.
Dick's Fort Hood.
Freedom.
No. The guy
Happiness.
in Fort Hood
Shouldn't
in
be a
Texas.
war
What's
zone.
that guy's
he's-
name?
Yeah, well, he's getting
The
a
Muslim guy
pension
that
or
went
something.
crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Major, whatever his name was, Ahan
Yeah,
or
he's-
something.
So should you walk up and shoot him in the head because what he did?
No, but you don't try him in a.
I think you got to give him a trial.
Well,
That's
you
what
know,
America
these
stands
are,
for.
I'm not
they
for-
consider them
that's
enemy
for-
combatants, which is why Obama took them out with a drone, which is why they're locked up in Guantanamo Bay for 5-6
Obama
years.
said he was going to close Guantanamo.
Well, he didn't do that either. I mean, they're
That
going to
was the
say,
first thing Obama said. He's going to close Guantanamo. He's going to end the wars. He's going to do this. He's a great president. Meanwhile, he's done nothing. Liberals say nothing. They stay quiet. Obama kills American citizens. Liberals say nothing. It's a disgrace. It's a double standard. If George Bush was doing the things that Obama's doing,
right,
the liberals would
I
be
grant
going
you that one,
ballistic.
but I wouldn't call a president able to kill anybody. I think it's just allowing something to happen like that. That's a
well,
military.
they targeted him
Should
because
be
he
a
was
military
considered
thing.
an enemy combatant, and
He
they
was an
said
American
that's
People
it.
die in
citizen.
war
He was
all
killed.
the time.
Forfeited all rights when you're an enemy combatant.
Hassan should have been a terrorist immediately, not a what did they call him? The guy, the major.
What did his kid ever do?
No, they called him something. No,
Look,
no,
you
thinking
don't
of
know
Al-Awlaki,
that
you're talking about the
Anwar
other guy.
al-Awlaki was a terrorist. Nobody knows that because he was never given a trial. So to believe what the executive branch tells you is the same thing. If you believe that, then you believe that Obama says he
was
knew
over on
nothing
the other
about this
side
IRS
firing
scandal.
weapons. They caught him.
That
they
doesn't
could tell
matter.
more
You produce the evidence, bring it to a trial, and then kill him.
What do you want to do? Take pictures of him?
No,
when he's there?
everybody. If he's an American citizen, he deserves a
In
trial.
the middle of the war, we're going to stop and take pictures.
They have satellite imagery. You don't think they have
No,
drones?
but I
flying
mean, when
overhead?
he
They know
was
what did
caught,
for
they
breakfast?
did
Well,
take
it's not
pictures.
like they can call him up and say, "Can you come in for questioning?" I mean, you know,
They
it
could
war?
easily go
They're in
down there and
combat.
black bag his
Get 'em,
head and bring him in for questioning, please.
They-
There's no need to wipe American citizens out, because once you settle
Well,
for that
it's-
precedent, then you're going to settle for them. Hey, there's that truck going on Highway 95 down there. It's got terrorist combatants in it. Blow it up. And then they'll be shooting drones over the United States, and then there'll be a lot of collateral damage. Innocent people are going to get killed with these stupid things because of a gross overreach of executive power.
I think this was
and
a
pissing
one-off
on
decision. It
Americans.
on that
hasn't
one. I
happened
agree with
since, and
that.
I don't see it's going to happen again.
What's
I
that?
don't see targeting American citizens. This guy was an enemy combatant in a foreign country and was took out by
Right,
a
I'm
drone.
fine by
Case
it.
closed.
I'm fine by it,
It's
yeah.
not happening in the streets of St. Louis. It's not happening.
Okay,
in New
what
York.
about
Right.
the rogue cop that was in California that was
that's
hiding
not
out?
a
I forgot his
policy.
name. Doesn't matter. He was taken out by a drone. They blew up the little hut that he was hiding in with a drone. That's on American soil. He was targeted. He was an American
But if there's
citizen.
a threat
Not only
to
was he an
life-
American citizen, he was a police officer who
Well,
never
you should know
received a trial.
You know, well, I
Do
don't
you
know why I'm
understand?
not
This
picking
is
up on this thing.
unprecedented. They're saying, you know what? Trials, they don't mean anything anymore. Evidence, meaningless. If we think you're guilty, we're going to kill you. And you guys are saying that
Well,
that's
no,
cool.
no, no, that's-
So,
that's
you know, you
different.
guys
Well,
are a
that's
little
taking
No, no,
it
that's
to the
different.
extreme there. You get two
You guys are the
isolated cases.
extremists.
No, no, that's
I think
different.
Americans should be targeted for assassination.
Who said that?
You
You
just
know,
said that it's no problem.
No, there's
If
levels
there's
of
an enemy-
understanding
yeah,
here. They're
exactly.
in between someplace, I would agree. Up until that last point, I wouldn't
But what
agree
about
with
the
that.
kid in Boston, Tsarnaev?
Yeah, what about him?
What about him? He's an American citizen. Should he have been killed right away?
Yes.
Why?
Absolutely.
Why? How do you know what he? How do you
He
know what
killed
he
pe-
did? How do
he
you know?
killed people.
Where's the evidence?
He killed people.
Where's the evidence?
You got pictures
He
of
never
him.
had a trial. There's no
You don't need
evidence.
a trial.
What
You
do
have
mean?
pictures of him.
They can.
We're
Anything
talking
can be
about two different
doctored.
things. We're talking
They knew
about-
what he was
They have
doing.
Photoshop today.
Oh.
They can doctor anything. You have to have a trial.
That's a little far-reaching.
No.
Well,
You-
I don't
I'm
know.
not
What
for
was
trial.
he doing in a boat then? In the middle
hiding
of the
from
night.
hiding from 60,000 cops. What do you think he was
What
doing?
was he? Why was he hiding?
He was waiting for his attorney.
Wait,
waiting for a flood, so
He
he
left
took
his
the boat
attorney
out.
in the boat.
No, you ask him what he was doing in a boat, right?
Yeah.
Well, how come the cops didn't know he was in a boat? How come it took the guy who owned the house to find him?
he was
Even
a
though they
sneaky
shut
guy.
the city down and they turned the city under martial law, how come that didn't produce the guy? That what produced him was a guy who made a phone call and says, "Oh, there's a guy hiding in my boat." It just shows you that
Do you
this
think-
police state is a gross. It's overpowering. They're
If it was a
overpowering
police
the
state, he
American
wouldn't have
people.
gotten away with blowing up and killing those
What are you
people.
talking about? The reason they even knew who he was because they have cameras all over the place. And how do
think
you know
what-
that wasn't a false flag
okay,
operation?
Nobody would have
How do
just-
you know that?
It was a what
How do you know
operation?
it wasn't a false flag operation? There was never any evidence to suggest that this was anything. Nobody knows that.
So
There was no
you're saying
evidence.
that all the police reports and the news accounts that
I'm
these two guys with the backpacks
Right.
placing them down,
Right.
you're saying that was a false flag?
I'm
That-
saying
that's-
there is potential for it to be because there was no trust.
Rafe, let me
Despite
ask
the
you something.
cameras
Let me
being
ask you
there and
something. Do you
everything else.
trust our legal system?
Look, I'm not saying I trust it or I distrust it. I don't trust executive power saying this person's guilty, kill him. I don't trust that.
Yes,
don't
but
have
what
that now.
you're
Yes, we
leaving.
do.
No,
We
what
have
you're
two
leaving. You're
cases
leaving
in
me
war.
with the trusting the legal system is a superior position to
Well,
be in.
you're right. The legal system's been tainted through years of abuse. You can't say that the legal system's so great.
No, I mean that's what
everything's
would
great.
happen, though. I mean, to these
better
guys.
than any other
That's
system
your
in the
option.
world right now, that's
It
for
is,
sure.
and that's why I'm saying give people a trial. Don't just target them for killing. Extrajudicial murder is something that America
Well, how much?
should not
How
do.
often does that doesn't really happen too often? But
What
somebody
happens
was,
when it starts to increase? This is just the beginning.
Well,
They
I-
just started using
I'm
drones.
not
Wait
the
till 10 years
guaranteed
from now.
predictor that it's going to
Yeah,
continue.
okay, well, it's never
Well, I
going to
can't
get
see.
better.
Are you saying that it's going to be a drone if you're doing 60 and a 30? They're going to
Yeah, you bet. You wait. You wait.
Well, we flushed
I'll
that
tell you.
out.
Okay,
right
well, go
We
along
are-
Southern State Parkway, and on every single exit is a camera targeting every single
So
car.
what?
Where's all the data go?
Who cares?
Where's the operations center that's taking in all
What
this data?
difference does it
feed?
make?
What do you mean? What does it make? Your rights are being violated.
How are my rights being violated?
Because they're sitting there tracking your car.
I'm in a public space. I'm not in my toilet.
You're
If
in
I'm
your public
driving
space.
down
So
the
what happens
highway,
if they decide on flying an insect-sized drone looking in your window? What are you going to do then?
What good will this
insect-sized
do?
drone
Because they
I mean,
have insect-sized
But
drones.
I
now.
would
That
say,
can
why
fly
would they
and go
do
and
that?
Target anybody.
Rafe, why would they do that?
What do you mean why? Because
Yeah.
you just asked. You're answering your own question. Why?
No.
Because the government is becoming totalitarian.
No, I didn't say that. I'm fine. I agree with that.
Well, they're starting to use their
So, in other
tools.
words, it equals totalitarianism. Cameras in the sky,
Yes,
looking
it's
at
all
vehicles.
a sign. It's all slow,
A sign.
creeping movement.
Okay, it's a sign. I'll grant
Yeah.
you it could be a sign.
It's slow. Look, TSA, slow creeping. Now all of a sudden they have weapons. Now all of a sudden they're a paramilitary force. They have 1 billion rounds of ammo. I thought they were just there to protect the airport.
Yeah,
so this is creeping. It's going to get worse. We're going into a police state. Deal with it.
All right, real quick, final words on the IRS, because we jump ship there a little bit, but I thank you very much for your program. We only got another minute here to go. Is there anything we can look forward to regarding the IRS? What do you want out of them?
Well, the less I see of them, the better. But I think at the end of the day, if they could connect it to Obama, he's done.
They're bullying us, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Of course.
Well, they've
And
been
this
like
is
that
more
for years.
police state.
Absolutely. The IRS is nothing but a police agency. They send cops and agents to your door. So
Okay, see, we're not totally in disagreement.
Well, you know, those are the laws. I mean, they're allowed to do. They have certain rights that they can perform their duties, and that's, you got to look at Congress. You got to change the law then.
Yeah.
If they break the law, you prosecute
What
them.
about,
But right
like
now,
you said before, what about the possibility of abolishing the IRS?
I don't see that happening. It's not going to happen.
Okay. All right.
You can't fund anything in this country without the IRS. It's never going to happen.
You can't fund anything?
You can't fund anything. How you get? You know, there's so much federal money that's already promised out there by law. You can't just wipe it out. How would you collect the money? The country would just collapse in a second.
What's it doing now?
the country would collapse without taxes. You
I mean,
really are out there.
I
man.
think
Who said that?
Without taxes, without IRS, the United States would collapse.
Yeah,
That
how
is
are
the
you going to
biggest
collect
fallacy
taxes?
I've ever heard in my life.
How are you going to fund the government?
30
functions.
seconds, guys.
How would you fund it?
First of all, only about $2 trillion of the federal budget each year is taken in by IRS. Okay, so you'd have to find another way to get $2 trillion.
How would you do it?
I'll give you.
State IRS,
No,
state
I'll
tax
tell
collecting?
you.
How?
The United States military spends $1 trillion on overseas operations per year. Cut them.
Cut all overseas military
No, we
operations.
just take some of the bases you don't
But
need. I'm
which
sure
half?
for that.
We got
too many bases.
791 foreign bases. You take your pick.
Where would
How
you
about
cut?
the ones in Italy that have no mission?
Guys,
what about the ones in
hold
Sweden
it.
that have no mission?
Thank you.
Okay, how about some of the
Thank
Middle
you.
East
Thank
too?
you. Good
right.
job. Congratulations. It was great. Societal and political trends like some of these have been breaking down our social order for quite some time. My name is Chris DiMaggio. We have to wrap this program up. Continue to watch FIT TV every single week, and we'll see you next week.